right, we're back. So for you, Omar, why do you think some partners put more time and effort into their significant other than their children? Does hatred towards their ex play a part?
Um, I would say if someone is putting more effort into their partner rather than their children, um, I would have to look at it as what are the values that they're holding on to in the moment that is overseeing their responsibilities. Um, so like you have the responsibility of being a parent, but then you might have a value that's surrounded around intimacy and connection, and being cared and loved for. So if, say, for instance, if there is two people and we have uh, a kid, or even like two kids, let's just say they were siblings, you might have where this person is dating this person A is dating person B. Person A is the parent of the two kids, and maybe they want to be able to spend more time with person B. There could be circumstances whereby person may have been a young parent. They may have had these two kids when they were young, so they feel as though they lost the prime of like their youthful years, and so they want to be able to gain it back by spending that time with this person, because maybe whoever was the father or even the mother of these two kids, depending on who's the one who has custody, they might feel as though like I missed out because I had to immediately jump into this responsibility and I want to go and spend time with this person. And unfortunately, by doing that, that neglects the needs of the children. And what ends up happening is the children, um, especially when there's like at least more than two kids, one of them has to take on the role of being the parent. And so this is where you get the term parentified child, where they have to take the responsibilities of what the parent should be taking. Um, and over time, that has its own effects on that child when as they grow older. But in short, to go back to answer the question, if a person is choosing their partner over their kids, it's either one, they're choosing them because they want to be able to relive or extend their youthful years of being able to just be single and dating and enjoying that relationship. Two, um, they they don't quite understand the responsibilities of what it means to be a parent, regardless of their age. They might lean on to friends and family members to almost do what I call community parenting, where they leave the kids off there and they do their own thing. Yes, the old school saying of it takes a village to raise a child, that does make sense. However, the village is not just solely responsible for that child. The village helps raise the child. But when the parent chooses to just use the village to raise the child, then that's different. And then when you bring up what was the second part of the question about the ex?
Well, it's like, does hatred towards their ex play a part? Like, you know how you'll hear some moms say, "You're just like your dad," and they have this
Oh,
like sense of hatred towards the father that sometimes rolls over because the father must have did something to them, and that particular thinking, um do you feel like that plays a role in them putting too much effort and time into the new relationship to the point where it's like, the guy might have given them a little bit more attention than the old relationship, and so they don't want to lose the guy, so then they put a lot of effort into the relationship to the point where they kind of push the kid, like they just do the basics, like, oh, I'm gonna feed you, I'll clothe you, I'll shelter you, but affection and attention and guidance is no longer there.
Yeah, that I would say I would say I would call that they're projecting the anger onto the kids. The anger is actually towards the ex.
Mm.
The kids did not do anything to deserve that type of treatment. So could that be possible? Yes, it is possible for a person could be so upset, annoyed, frustrated, pissed off about whatever the ex may have done, um, to leave them in that place. And so when they look at their kids, the kids is a result of that relationship. And so it's a constant reminder of how things fucked up, essentially. And so they might end up projecting anger to the kids, even though it's not about the kids, it's about how you feel about your ex. And so, yes, they might try to salvage, or not salvage, but they might try to do whatever they can with this relationship, in order to foster something healthier. But it ends up backfiring because then that person is also going to see like how they treat their kids, and whether or not, if that person, whoever they're dating, is someone who understands the responsibility of parenting. I can only hope that that person encourages them, like, hey, you want to spend time with your kids? Like, I know you're spending a lot of time with me, and I'm grateful for that. But eventually, I'm gonna need to like get to know these kids, um, and I want to see like how you are as a parent. And you never know when they might try to like postpone that as much because maybe they don't want to see them and how they actually act with their kids, or how upset they might get with their kids when their kids are just doing like kid stuff, because that might also change the dynamics between them. Um, and the kids might also notice a shift in the parents' behavior, and they might think like you're being much more nicer than ever. So then the kids attach the change in behavior from the parent with this new person. So they might attach themselves with this new person because maybe whatever this new person is doing has created a different parent, and I like who this parent is. And so, fortunately, then that brings up a different cycle, which is if they break up, then they get the old parent. And so the kids then associate, like, this is what it means to be in a relationship, that people change you. And so then that's how they start developing this idea of what relationships mean. And people don't realize the impact that your choices and decisions have on kids of relationships, even though kids may not see the in and outs of the dynamics of the relationship, they do feel the effects of it, through you as a person. They might see you cry or hear you cry, see you get upset, and see the changes in your behavior, and they reflect on that due to the relationship. Or that's how their little brains are trying to make sense of it.
So do you recommend that those they would probably get like just a single counseling
The
or
parent or
just
the
um yeah, that would be the question. Would it be both of them at the same time? I mean, it is a
I
relationship.
I would say I would say once a couple if it once and if a couple were to separate for whatever reason and kids are involved, I would highly recommend for that parent to consider, um, counseling either for themselves and or family counseling, especially if they're fully aware that the ending of that relationship may have had a direct or indirect impact on the kids. Especially if kids are constantly asking, "Oh, where's daddy? Or where's mommy? When are we going to see them? How come you guys aren't together? Why did they pick their stuff up and leave? Why are we moving?" So when kids have questions and you can't really give them like straightforward answers, or you choose to give answers, but your answers are highly influenced based on how you feel, like,
Mhm.
oh, we're leaving because it's your dad's fault, it's your mom's fault, then you're doing a disservice because now you're pushing the kids into a position of having to unintentionally choose sides, because now they have to side with you, even though that they enjoy both parents. Um, so when it comes to family counseling, it's more to do with how the parent and child can move through this change. Because if a parent doesn't know what's the best way to describe what's happening in their relationship to a child, depending on what age they are, then they're better off sharing that within the context of like counseling. have the counselor, have a family therapist help you how to bridge that gap of explaining the situation or the change for them. So that way the kid has a platform to share how they feel, and their concerns. Um, um, for the person, I would say their best bet is to speak with like a relationship counselor. The reason being is because um, they need to go speak to someone who has an ongoing history and expertise of the nuances of relationships, whether or not it's communication, intimacy, and so forth. So they have space to really explore what contributions that they make or did not make that contributed to the downfall of the relationship. Because the relationship is the two-way thing. Even if you truly believe in your heart of hearts, it's the other person's fault, that could be possible, but what did you do or did not do that also contributes to where it has happened? There are circumstances where you didn't do anything wrong, but it was the choices that you made afterwards that may have contributed to where you're at now. Like you could have thought that the relationship was great, and then you found out that the person cheated on you, and now you're stuck of like, what am I supposed to do now? That is a moment where you need to consider doing counseling, not let the relationship continue and then things go sour, and then you start having a lot of hatred towards a specific gender, and then feel as though you attribute all of the folks who fit in line with that gender suck because of what this person did. So like if a woman had cheated on me, I'm just gonna say all women suck because they're all cheaters, or vice versa. That is not fair to the entire population of women. It's only this person made that choice. And so I think it would behoove of the person to get counseling immediately once they like for lack of better words, a traumatic situation has occurred that has now put you in a place of not being able to sleep at night, holding some sense of anxiety, holding a lot of anger and resentment. Those are not healthy to sustain yourself with those emotions because it's going to affect everything else. It's going to affect how you parent because you're easily going to be annoyed with your kids by just doing kid stuff. You're not going to be as productive at work. You're not going to be yourself. You're going to lose sleep. These are things that when those things shift, it's best for the person to be preventative. Now, if they weren't thinking because maybe the situations went so quickly that it needed to end, maybe it was so toxic and unhealthy, the person just needs to leave the relationship and it wasn't salvageable, then yeah, it would still be, I would still, it doesn't hurt, especially nowadays. You don't have to go to an office. You can just set up a time where you can do like a video conferencing meeting with someone for like 45 minutes an hour. You just need that amount of time. And it could be where you could try to set up something where, let's just say you're thinking about time, you're so busy, the only time you have is while you're driving your car to maybe go from work to pick up your kids. And you can potentially book a session with someone where it's a 30-minute session and you're in your car, you put it on FaceTime on your phone, but you put your phone down so that they can hear you and you can have that conversation in the car. I think it's more about just as soon as there's a pattern of behaviors that are not healthy, or would be considered not healthy, that is when people need to get help.
It's funny that you said that because I always feel like people should get help regardless. I remember the first time I ever got counseling was when my uncle passed away, and
Mhm.
it rocked me. And I started drinking and just took a couple days off of work, and I spent those couple days drinking. So
Mhm.
it was kind of like I just checked out. And I remember going to my job and I told them, I was like, I just don't even feel like coming back to work. And they're like, okay, we'll sign you up for a therapy while you're out. So I went on like a medical leave, and um I did the counseling and stuff. And then like I finally got my shit together and was just like, all right, I needed to accept what everybody else was accepting all these years, that when people pass away, that it's part of life, and you'll never know if you might just run into them again. Um So it's like, you just gotta accept it for what it is. But then the second time was when I started college and I had just had the twins. Our relationship was kind of separating, and it was struggling because I was working, going to school. I would come home like 11 o'clock at night, and I was working part time and going to school full time. And the anxiety of it was just rough. And I just remember one of the school counselors was like, "You probably just go get some school therapy or like
Mhm.
therapy or something like that to deal with your anxiety and stress." And I was like, "All right," because changes, I just remember her most valuable word is when you have changes in your life and they become like overwhelming, sometimes you probably need somebody to bounce stuff off of because you like life can become overwhelming. So, I mean, do you feel like it's beneficial to, outside of relationships that people go to therapy just because, every day to day stuff?
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't want people to look at therapy as the be all end all, but I want folks to look at it um as like a resource. Or think about it like when we're trying as human beings, when we're trying to live healthy, sustainable lives, we may buy like vitamins or supplements um, as a way to like help us, but we cannot rely on those vitamins and supplements. We have to make choices based on our eating habits and our exercise activity. We just use vitamins to supplement some of the things that we're not getting in our everyday lives. And so I look at counseling as that. Counseling is a supplement to what you should already have. What you should already have is a healthy network of friends. You should have, depending on one's life, some level of connection to people that you can go to. Now, friends offer common sense or common advice, while a therapist or a counselor offers more of like what is considered clinical support. Clinical support is as a counselor, my responsibility is to help you slow down some of your thought processes so that you can then think about what decisions and choices you're going to make. A friend might go into what I consider like a problem solving mode. They hear your problem, they immediately either they'll listen to you, they might ask questions, but they might go into like trying to help you solve the issue. But sometimes you don't need a resolution, you just need someone to talk to. And sometimes people don't want to feel that they're burdening their friends, so they might choose to go to a counselor. Because they might say like, I know that my friends are going to side with me. I know my family's going to side with me, but I want someone neutral. And I think that's what people might view counseling as a neutral space to really think through like, I need someone to tell me, did I fuck up? Am I crazy? And I tell people all the time, you're not crazy. Um, you might make decisions and you might make choices that seem crazy, but we have to spend time to really slow down and ask intentional questions around how come you made these choices? What was important to you? I don't know if friends would do that. I think friends would say like, no, that guy's stupid. You don't need him anymore. But again, their allegiance is to you. There, my allegiance is to your overall well-being. You could make messed up choices, and depending on my relationship to you as a client, I'll tell you like what you do was fucked up because it goes against what you've told me before of what the type of person you want to work towards. So if you want to work towards being a more considerate person and you made a choice that was inconsiderate, then I'll call you on it because you said you're coming in here to work on that and I'm keeping you accountable to that. It's almost like I'm your mental personal trainer. I'm going to tell you what you're doing wrong based on what you're telling me. I don't know you. I'm not going to claim that I know you more than you know yourself. However, based on what you tell me, I'm going to tell you what I am understanding. based on what you're saying. So if you're telling me this and I tell you, say, I'm so mad I'm gonna punch him in the face. Okay, so you're telling me you're gonna punch him in the face. And then you hear it back, exactly your words, and you're like, oh no, no, that's not what I mean. I don't actually want to punch him in the face. I'm just so upset that that's how I feel. And so that's it's a term that a supervisor had taught me, which is saving the said from the saying, which basically means someone said something, but when you repeat it back to them exactly how they said it, they hear it very differently, and so they try to save it from the air because whatever they said has a different meaning and intention based on what they heard it. So it's just like the punching in the face. Like you might
So,
say you're gonna punch someone in the face, but your intention is not to actually. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was gonna say that again. Save the face.
Saving the said,
Oh, saving the set.
saving the said from the saying. So
Oh,
said
okay.
as in SAID and then saying SAYING.
Okay.
Um, so I said something, but that's not what I mean.
No, I got
Um,
you.
yeah. So, um,
I tend to always be like the devil's advocate, and my friends hate it. They don't like to talk to me because, like, I don't try to agree with them. I try to look at the whole picture. And
mhm.
I guess a lot of times it's kind of like you said, you have an allegiance to them. And I was just like, I might have an allegiance to you, but is it going to benefit you at the end of the day for me to tell you what you want to hear? So,
Well, I think what a lot of people don't do often is they don't tell their friends what they actually need from them when they come to them with an issue. I
hmm,
think, and that's what I see with a lot of couples where you people don't make it clear. I'm coming to you with something and I want your help to resolve it, or I'm coming to you with something and I just want you to listen to me. Like I just want to vent. And if you don't make things clear, then people are going to get upset because they might say, I didn't come to you for you to tell me to be the devil's advocate. I came to you just to like vent and just to share. Like I need a cheerleader right now. I don't need someone to tell me what I did was wrong. I just need to like say something just to get a mental boost. Um, and so I think people in general, we don't think to ourselves of trying to be intentional in conversations. I just think that we just take advantage of um, um, we take advantage of our assumption that people should know how to talk to us, not realizing unless you went to school for communication, no one really got taught how to really communicate in a relationship or even friendship. You just you vibe with someone, they had similar interests and values as you, and then you just went with it. But then eventually every friendship goes through an argument. So how do you navigate it?
yeah, that's true. You got me over here thinking. You're not supposed to be having me think. They're supposed to be thinking out there. So, um, this was another segment my friend brought up, and I don't know, you're probably not the type of person to
Mhm.
condone that, but um, do you think polygamy is, you don't even have to answer. You could be like, I'm not answering that question, but do you think polygamy is best for this era?
The idea of being able to have multiple spouses.
Yeah.
Um, well, like in my personal, what I've seen professionally.
Professionally, personal life, your girlfriend's gonna kick your butt if you answer this question, but like professionally, when you see people or you talk to people.
um, so your question is now the best era for polygamy?
Yeah, because we did a segment on it a while back, and my friend out of nowhere, she's my co-host and my per diem co-host. She brought it up to me, and I was like, "Why are we doing this?" And she's like, "Cause I thought it was a good idea, because I think it's like doable. And I'm like, you're in a monogamous relationship and we're talking about polygamy. Okay. So that's why I was like, are you serious? And she's like, yeah. She's like, it wouldn't be a problem for her. And I'm like, I don't know if I could share. But then she started talking about, I guess, polyandrous. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe. But like, I just wanted to know what your opinion about that is.
Yeah, so I think so to me there is polygamy or the notion of being able to have multiple marriages, which my understanding, and I could be wrong, if that is considered outlawed in the United States versus like in outside countries where it might be legal,
Mhm.
versus like polyamory, the notion of of having intimate relationships with more than one person at the same time. Um, so professionally, I have not had exposure to those who've been in polygamy in terms of having multiple marriages.
Mhm.
But I have worked with who have been in polyamorous relationships. Um, and these are married couples who invited another person into their relationship. And um, so if we're looking at it from a health perspective, where things have advanced so much that there's so many forms of contraceptives that people can do and do what they please as long as they're being safe about it. Now, if we're speaking about um, couples who um, having a so there's so many different categories. There's an open marriage. Then you have just a relationship where someone can invite a third party or be in a polyamorous relationship. Um, then you have just people just um, what is that called? Um,
When you what?
um, I feel like there's a pineapple. It's something with a pineapple, an upside down pineapple or a star or something. Um, there's people who engage in like these sex orgies and parties, where you're giving permission to the other person to have sex with your wife. I forgot what they're called. Um, but there's like a specific fruit or something that's attached to it, or a specific symbol. Anyways, so is it the best era? Um, I would say if it's in line with how you view relationships, then now is the best era because there's so much openness around it.
Hmm.
However, for some people, it might go against their values because they might value monogamy,
Hmm.
and they might value a sense of just like commitment towards this one other person. Um, some people might view it as polygamy as an excuse just to have sex with someone else outside of the relationship.
Hmm.
Um, but with polygamy, there's my understanding is there has to be rules. There has to be certain rules in place in order for that to work. And the difficulty around that, and I've seen couples in this situation when those rules get bent or those rules get gray. And when those rules get bent and gray, feelings are attached to it. And then it messes up the original dyad of the couple. Um, and so um, I don't know if I'm answering your question.
It was a very awkward question. It was a very awkward segment, I have to say. I mean, I pretty much was just laughing the whole time she was giving me all the information about it. So
Mhm,
it's not a road I want to travel down. So that's why I,
mhm.
I just thought it was funny because when she said you could have more than one husband, I was like, oh, yeah, because I got one that's going to clean the house. And that's where I was going with all of that. But um, just so we can wrap this up and you can give us some information, like you say you do a business aspect, so you do like a business consulting as well? Is that
Yeah,
what I?
so I have so my primary business is doing counseling for couples.
Mhm.
And then I'm starting a second business, which is business coaching for therapists and helping them understand the business side of building their own counseling practice.
Okay. And so where would they go to find you if they need to?
If it was a couple that wanted to do counseling with me, the it would be just on my website, which is talkthinkthrive.com. That's TalkThinkThrive. The only issue when it comes to counseling is that, and this applies to a lot of counselors, is that they can only see people based on where they are licensed. So I'm licensed only in Massachusetts. So that means
Mhm.
I can only see folks who either work in or reside in Massachusetts.
Right.
Um, for the business coaching, the website is onlineprivatepractice.com.
Mhm.
Um, and for that side, it's more of helping therapists improve their online presence
Mhm.
so that that way they can get more client referrals. Because I think even coming from my own experience building a counseling business, we didn't go to school for business. So we don't necessarily understand what it means to like market ourselves
Mhm.
or understand the nuances of like how to really show up on Google. What we've been trained to do is help people, but they didn't train us about building a business. It's all, then also the conversations about building business was always shunned upon. They would always say like, "You didn't come into this field to make money." Well, we're trying to break that mode and say like, no,
Mhm.
you can still make money.
Yeah.
Like just because I'm working with certain folks does not mean that my time is not as valuable as maybe an accountant or as like a landscaper. Like
Yeah.
I'm still helping people and my time is still worth something. So
Yeah.
for those folks who need help on improving like their business aspect, then they can just go to onlineprivatepractice.com. And I'm right now building a YouTube channel so that I get more of the awareness out about like how to build the business.
Oh, that would be
And it's
helpful.
under the same, it's under the same name. It's under, yeah, it's under the same name, online private practice. And that, I think that goes with any health professional that's trying to build a private practice. It could be like a physical therapist. It could be even a nurse who wants to have their own private business. It's more about just like the nuances of like building a small business from the ground up.
Yeah, because these doctors are, they're used to just insurance company referring the patients over to them. And,
Mhm,
because I know, um, like I know a lot of people are doing telemedicine now, a lot of doctors. Like that's like included when you make a doctor's appointment. Do you want to see him in person or do you want to see him over the phone? And it's awesome because I'm just like, I don't feel like going to the doctors today, but I have to. So let me do it from my house in my pajamas type of thing. So I think that was a wonderful benefit that we have to still be able to see our doctors and do all that. So that is a big help for these upcoming doctors, to advertise out there. But I guess they're only limited to their own state, right? You could branch out too later on if you get like licensed. Say, because I'm in
well,
California.
yeah, for like yeah, I think even for therapists, you could get licensed in multiple states. But that's in its own nuance of
Mhm.
like which state do you want to get licensed, what's the reasoning for getting licensed. Like there are some people who they might be licensed in California and they were building their practice, whether if it's a nurse, physical therapist, or counselor, and then all of a sudden they moved to Boston, but they still have referrals coming in from California. So they want to maintain that license in California while getting their license established in Massachusetts. So that's why for some people, they might want to keep those multiple licenses.
Mhm.
And because of COVID, there was a lot of lessening of the guidelines to be able to provide telemedicine or telehealth services to people across state lines. because there are
Mhm.
rural areas that didn't have enough providers to service the community. And so then people were allowed to like do provide services interstate. But I think I don't know if we've arrived fully at like a post-COVID world, but I can
Mhm.
see now that some states are pulling back from that from that um loose restriction
Mhm.
of being able to like service people in those states, and they're trying to like hone back in and just go back to the original, which is you can only service if you're here and there's no exceptions.
Gotcha. So we're gonna wrap up, but just one thing that we really didn't touch on, and we just for give us like a just a simple version of it. But what would be your advice to those people that have broken up and and now they're used to being two and now they're one? Is there any advice you can give them? Well, how to like
Um,
go ahead.
if they have just broken up, um, number one is um, get yourself into counseling so that you can be able to have a platform that is safe where you can express yourself regardless of what emotions you're going through. Two, do the best that you can to connect with friends that you trust. And what I mean by trust, meaning that you're going to them and that you know that whatever you share is in safe hands and they're not there to judge you, they're there to support you.
Mhm.
Three, you need to start or continue to engage in things that bring joy and pleasure to your life, whether or not that's you going to church, you going to the gym, maybe focusing on school and work and doing the best that you can. Um, and focus on those three areas, like your space, your social space, and just your overall health. Those are the top three things that I would consider people doing. And as far as the type of therapist, I would say speak with a relationship therapist so that that way you have the space to really learn about what mistakes or things that you need to learn from the relationship. So that way, whenever you do feel comfortable and go back to the next relationship, you are able to learn from it and actually practice some of those things, whether or not it's listening, communication, or anything else.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. And just look out for Omar if you're in the Massachusetts area. If you just had a breakup, he is available. And, for all the doctors and everyone else out there that needs a little business savvy, Omar's the guy for you.